Spirit and Coffee. Got my coffee here. I have been trying to get up early. It's not working. I'm just tired. I think it's probably because I end up staying up later than I say I want to stay up, and so then it just gets very tiring. And I would like to get up at 4 o'clock like I used to, 4:30, and that doesn't seem to be happening. But that's okay. All okay. All right, let's get started. I'm gonna read from the Kundalini Rising. Okay, great book. I love this book. It's really good. I think the individuals who sort of talk about their spiritual awakening, their spiritual interpretation, um, all different, right? Because we all have our own way of perceiving the world. Um, and that's what I love. Good morning, Yolanda. What I love about life is that everybody has their different way of engaging the world, right? Good morning, Lori. Good morning, Leo. Um, why? Because what I see is not the same that you see. What I feel, not the same that you feel. What fires me up and gets me excited may not fire you up and get you excited. What angers me and frustrates me may not anger you and frustrate you. So again, we have different ways of perceiving the world, understanding what our spiritual practices are to help us to find that balance and harmony in our life. Everything different for every single person. We all have our own unique fingerprint to leave on the world. Um, and our perceptions very, very different. Now, the perceptional difference between people is what causes conflict. Okay. That's one of the reasons why we have conflict. I don't see it the way you do. You don't see it the way I do. And so there's this conflict. But I've been, as I told you guys, diving into sort of the psychology behind it. I mean, I've always been very intrigued with the human psyche, always been very intrigued with the different, why do people do what they do? What is their underlying purpose and intention for doing what they do? And I'm the kind of person who wants to get to the bottom of it. I want to understand what is causing, or why are people doing what they do. If, for instance, we have somebody who and I'm getting into the, like I told you guys, the sociopath, psychopaths, and for a reason, because we need to understand, um I need to understand, I don't know if you guys need to understand, but the people that are leading the country at this point, our entire world at this point, I mean, a lot of them I believe are psychopaths and sociopaths, what I think, right? And not as, there's something, not to be funny, but I truly believe that this is what's happened, right? And it's because the way that they perceive the world, the way that they engage the world is vastly different. Okay. Now, what does that mean for us? It means for you is looking at what type of person are you? Because if you know yourself, if you understand yourself, you're able to engage any personality type that comes your way. You're able to understand them. You're able to sort of find the balance, right? And harmony in your life. You don't have to be afraid if you understand it, okay? If you know it. And that's why understanding the intention or agenda of others. Why are you doing this? What is triggering you? If you're upset, what's going on? How come you're upset? What is the real issue? And when you can get to those root causes, even within your family, even within your own subconscious mind, you can sort of pull up that weed and take it out. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that there's not going to be residue there, or that it's not going to be there for, it's, it goes away forever, because that's not how emotions work, especially if you're a person who feels emotion. Okay. And I'm talking like this because there are people, right? As I dive deeper into the understanding of the mind. And here's the thing, like I personally used to sort of look at the different personality types and all this, didn't really dive into, what is a psychopath? What is, I mean, you watch these movies, you understand, but didn't really understand the difference, the distinction. Why is it so important now? Why am I talking about now on Spirit and Coffee? Because this is what is asking, we're asked to be focused on this particular thing. Why? Because right now, the circumstances that we are under, right? You've got to ask yourself, who is pulling the strings? Who is the wizard behind the curtain? Who is the person? Who are the people that are making all of these choices for us on our behalf? Right now, you have what's happened is a ton of chaos has happened. People have woke up. Some people are speaking out. Some people are not speaking out. Some people are quiet. You have the different perceptions on what is actually happening in this particular moment in history, right? This time in history has probably been the most weird, wonky, Twilight Zone-ish, I'm calling it the Twilight Zone, that we've ever experienced, right? Now that I've experienced. I don't know about older people. They may have experienced some weird stuff, right? We had the Great Depression. We've had, but on a worldwide scale, everybody is, in the same predicament, which is, I don't think that's happened ever, at least that I know of. So if there's something that's happened ever like this, please tell me. But asking yourself, who's pulling the strings? Okay. Why do we care to know this? Why do I care to know this? Why do I care to talk to you guys about this on Spirit and Coffee? Not your typical Spirit and Coffee conversation, right? Mostly Spirit and Coffee is about reading the Four Agreements, reading the Christ Blueprint, 13 Keys to Christ Consciousness, reading the Kundalini Rising, and sort of discussing about, how do you apply these principles that are in these books to your life to create something? Because why read it? Why understand something if you're not going to do something with it? It doesn't matter if you don't do something with it. It just sits there. It's like this. It's like getting all these books and putting them on a bookshelf and they just look pretty. What good is that? You've got to read the book. There's got to be some action behind it. Or it's like getting ingredients from the store. Good morning, Juanita. Good morning, Roberto. Good morning, Six Beautiful. Good morning, Colored Girl. Good morning, Mo 31, Beth, Lori. Okay, it's like, so again, it's like having all these ingredients, like going to the grocery store, buying all this yummy food and not cooking it. It just goes bad, right? It spoils. So why understand this information? Why am I giving you this information? Why are we discussing it? Well, because we need to understand it, right? The only reason we fear something is because there's no discussion about it. There's no light shed on it. When you shed light on it and you start to understand it and you start to educate yourself on it, it's not as fear. You're not as feared. You don't fear it. You just kind of learn how to engage it. Right now, which what I believe, and I'm almost pretty sure. Of course, I'm not a psychologist. I can't look on here and say, "Oh, I diagnose with the, Bill Gates and all these people, sociopaths and psychopaths." But after watching a documentary on Bill Gates, I pretty much believe he's a psychopath. Like not in a mean way. I'm not saying this like, "Oh, he's a psychopath." No, I'm saying it as I believe he really is. What does that mean for us? Well, right now, for a person that's has a lot of influence because he has created an empire and he's paid off a lot of people to be in a power position. And he's used money to do this, okay? He's used a lot of his money to buy off people. That's what he's done, right? That's his whole life story, right? They try to sue him for, putting together a monopoly when he was young. So this person, it has a lot of influence in what we call the public health sector. Now I work in public health. Okay. It's part of my work that I do. Public health, when you look at public health as a whole, I didn't realize how much the public health arena really impacts humanity as a whole. I was a business major and I ended up in public health and I'm like, okay, so how did this interconnect? How did this happen? Because public health is a huge, 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 huge industry. Okay. So we know that right now, public health officials are the ones that are sort of telling us what we need to do to stay safe, right? They're saying, here's what you need to do, stay safe. Then we have these other people who are coming out and saying that is not the proper protocols to stay safe. the protocols that these people at the top are giving us are actually making us worse. So you have all these different sort of circulating ideas happening. People don't know what to believe. People don't know what to choose. People are going to start to, and I've already seen it, right? Because this is what happens with the human psyche, start to judge, right? As though they know what the answer is, as they know what's right. And then they tell you, oh, you should be doing this or you should be doing that. Okay. Now, here's my issue with that. My issue is I know what's right for me. I don't need somebody to tell me what to do. Why? Because, good morning, Sandra, because I do my own research and I know what's best for Natalie. Now, I'm not going to go impose those things on other people. I will teach people to think for themselves. I will teach people, but it's up to them to take that information and to sort of come up with a choice or a formulation of what's best for them, for their life, right? What is best for your life? And this is beyond just the situation. You've got to do what's best for you to keep your sanity, because when you are okay, when you're mentally stable, when you can, then you can engage any situation from a place of calm and peace rather than being irrational and acting out of haste, which people often do. If they can be cool, calm, and collected and come back to this sort of place of harmony and well-being, they can engage any situation. But we see these people. So I've had, and I can just tell you from my own experience, right? I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm going to tell you guys that because I'm authentic, right? Authenticity is one of them. I don't need to tell you why I'm never going to wear a mask. I'm not going to do it. It's just my choice, right? But people are going to ridicule me for my choices, right? Of course, because they think they know what's best. I know what's best for me. I understand and I know why I'm not doing that. If somebody wanted to ask me, well, why not? Then I would explain why I don't. Based on the information that I have, based on knowing myself, based on the understanding of my body and how it functions. Okay. Will not do it. So here's the deal. People, and it's understanding this is, why are you making the choices you make? If you're, and so I've had individuals come in, why aren't you wearing a mask? I'm like, because I don't, and I tell them why. But I had a lady, right? And then this is going to start to happen. People trying to publicly shame you for not doing what they think is best for you. And it's like, really, you're going to publicly shame me? Like, that's correct way to behave or interact in society with human beings. And that's okay. If that's who you are and that's what makes you happy, that's fine. Now, for me, do I get upset? No, because I understand why people are making their choices. I get it. I get it. I'm like, okay. And then forgiveness and kindness and compassion comes in. But understanding the human psyche, what I'm saying is understanding the human psyche is going to be beneficial for any individual who's like, what's next? How do I engage this situation? How do I find my way back to love and harmony and peace in a world right now that has so many different ways of viewing the same situation? The perceptions on all of these are so vastly different, and you have so many people throwing so much information at you all at once. Which way do you go? Right? Do what's true to you, but don't just do it because you're afraid. Do it out of, like, here's my intention, here's what I understand. If you do it out of fear, that's fine, there's nothing wrong with it, but you've got to ask yourself, is am I just doing this out of fear, or am I doing it out of an educated and looking at the facts and really understanding what's best for me? Now, is this best for me? Does this sort of add some resolution to my brain, my mind, my function? Fine, that's fine too. There's different ways to engage it, you guys. I can't give you all the scenarios, right? Because every human is different. The one thing that I can say is you have the ability to do your own research. That is a big trigger for people right now, especially those that are coming out and saying, think for yourself, be a free thinker. Those people are getting in trouble. A lot of them are getting in trouble. And a lot of them are getting taken down, not because they're telling the truth, but because they're telling people, please do your research, think for yourself. When we start to be critical thinkers and are able to think for ourselves, we're able to express our point of view. If we don't, really all we're doing, if we're not doing our own, if we're not being our own critical thinker, is we're just taking on what we're hearing, right? From the masses, and then just either regurgitating what we hear from the masses, right? One, or two, we're just going to follow what they do. And this is a very simple statistical thing that they're using. You use statistics, right? Look at trends. So when we see trends is just a statistic, right? And they call it the bell curve. And the bell curve is actually, people know what the bell curve is now because of this whole pandemic that's going on. I've talked about the bell curve on my Spirit and Coffee a long time ago. And when I did it, I showed you guys that you have early adopters when you're talking to statistics, and early adopters, or you have first, you have the first person or the first group of people who have an idea. That idea starts on this side of the scale, right? And so, like, we'll say it's on the left, and then you have these people who sort of hear what's going on. This is a trend, like technology. Let's start with that. So let's say there was a computer that first started, since we're talking about the digital era. Then some people were like, oh, I'll never get a computer, right? I'm always going to use a typewriter. But you had the early adopters, the first people who said, I'm going to get a computer. I want to try this thing out. They're the ones who will go before everybody else, okay, to try it. And these people are usually seen by the trends, the people that are already in old paradigms, our old ways of thinking, will look at this new way of thinking like, nah, that's never going to happen. That's dumb. I don't want to do that. I'll just wait. I'll wait to see what happens. So you have the ones who kind of sit out and wait. Then you start having more people adopt. Well, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. And before you know it, there's this sort of peak that happens. And what happens when it starts to rise is that it starts to trend. And that's how they do. That's economics. Economics looks at trends. It looks at these different bell curves. It looks at what are the masses doing. One of the bell curves that they have in this pandemic was the tissue paper, right? You could see there was a spike and then it went down. And it's because one person went, I don't know how it started. I have my theories, but I don't know 100% how it started. But anyway, the TP in America was a big thing, right? Big topic. And it started off with one individual and they were like, what are they doing? And then before you know it, everybody caught on. And before you know it, was this big trend in waves. So there's been people to know to sort of, uh, I don't want to say trick the market so that they can make money, and get trends to happen so that they can make a lot of money. Oil, gas, all those things. They do this. They use the basic principles, you guys. It's not very complex. It's very simple because the human psyche is very, very predictable. Good morning, Suze. Right? Patterns in the human psyche are very predictable. People are consumers. We know that the majority are consumers. Okay, so basically what I'm saying is that your way of thinking, right, or the bell curve. So all of this happened, started, and then people just trend on, and then it sort of peaks, and then it drops, right? And that's how a paradigm shift happens. I don't know if I have the Spirit and Coffee where I kind of showed you guys that a long time ago, but those of you who understand statistics know how it works, okay? So you have the trendsetters that start off, you have the early adopters who start to say, I like this trend. And then before you know it, it becomes a trend, right? If you looked at like fashion and all that kind of stuff, right? And then people, it becomes pop culture, right? Or it becomes popular, or people are trending on it, they like it. Um, and so we sort of see that. And then it starts to like sort of fade away. Okay. Now they do this in markets, they do this and they're even doing it now with this pandemic. So people and the way that they're thinking sort of going to go through this as well. Okay. So there's going to be craziness, and it's very just simple before there's calmness. And we might see people get more crazy. So understanding the psyche is going to be really important for you. Do a little bit of research on the different personalities. Why? So that you know how to engage. What does this do? This sets you up so that you're not in disharmony, so that you're not in harm's way, so that you can mitigate maybe fear or anxieties that might show up in you if things were to go crazy. Because we know that if we are calm in a situation, that we get a better result than if we are in panic mode. We make some really crazy decisions when we're totally panicked. Okay. I think I was telling you guys the other day about the water with my mom. She was totally panicked and she kept making it worse. And I was like, look, you need to step aside and you need to let me figure this out. Because why? Because I was calm. I was able to like formulate something that would help instead of make it bigger. So finding your harmony is critical. Finding that peace is critical, but understanding is critical, is important. Understand. Okay. Good morning, Tony. Understanding the characters that we are currently engaged with. Who are the players? Okay. What is their way? How are they engaging humanity right now? What is their sort of thought process? Trying to figure out how to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And also compassion will come in. So that's a big one. Having compassion for those who we feel are just like killing off the population, right? We're like, how do you love somebody like that? My thing is with these different people, these different characters that may have some sort of narcissism, sociopathic, psychopathic tendencies, is that my compassion for them is huge because it's like they may never understand what it's like to truly love. They don't know what that means, or they may never really get to a point where they have high self-esteem, because many people don't have self-esteem and they just use that to figure it out. So they have this sort of tick of their, will they ever truly get all there is to get out of life, which is not the money, not the power, not the control, but the love. The love, the love that we share, the connection to family, the sitting at the table with one another and having dinner and laughing, the cooking together, the taking the walks in the evening, the simple things that we do with family when we love each other, right? That perhaps they'll never know what that truly feels like, right? That they just sort of kind of get these feelings, but no, they're so focused on control, they're so focused on power, that they never experience this beauty, right? The beauty of love, of actual chaos too, because chaos is a part of this entire thing. Chaos can be beautiful. It can be a whole beginning of creation of something new, because chaos devours and then there's new that sort of comes from that. But that is where my compassion comes in for these individuals, because I'm like, wow, you'll never know. Like, you've gone your whole life and you've never experienced true harmony and peace and love and tranquility. If you did, you would not be doing these things to individuals. You wouldn't think that you could save the entire world, or that you can change the world. I mean, you can change parts, but not our job really. The way to change the world is change yourself. Change yourself. Go look at yourself. Go understand who you are. Trust me, yourself is weirder than any other weirdo. Like, I'm weirder than any other weirdo. I'm like, wow. And I'm constantly trying to figure out, like, whoa, I learn something new about myself every single day. Good morning, Yaya. Hi. I'm learning something new about myself every day, all the time. I'm ever changing. So know who you are, understand who you are, dig a little deeper into who you are, understand your psyche, ask yourself, how do I bring myself back to harmony every single time? If I have fear around something, is it because I haven't done my homework and my research and I'm just listening to the fear-based programming that people are feeding me? That's the only reason we fear stuff. We don't understand it. We fear what we don't understand. Why is anyone trying to play God? I know. Millennium King, that's what I say. I don't think some characters know they're trying to play God. I think that they, and I don't know, this is just my thought process, but I feel like I'm saying that as, and the reason I'm saying that is because I feel like I've watched, this documentary, and I don't know anything about Bill Gates really. Um, I didn't really pay attention to him till all of this started to happen because I'm so curious about the human mind and why people do what they do. And so, the video that I did watch, and I recommend you watch it. It's on Netflix. I don't know if it's off anymore. It was only there for a limited a time. And the series was talking about, trying to understand his psyche. And, part of it was one of the things that he was trying to do is eradicate polio. And he was, I guess, using Warren Buffett's money to do this, right? And they have this foundation and they're in public health. And, you know, he does read a lot. He's not a public health official. He's more of a technical guy. So he's trying to use technology to sort of eradicate this thing. And he even said it himself. He said, "I have a hammer, and I see these problems as nails. So I just use my hammer to tackle these problems." And I'm like, "Okay, Thor, you think you're Thor, number one?" No, just kidding. But I'm like, "Look, fine, you think you have this hammer, but let's look at I don't know if you guys watch superheroes, but look at Thanos, right? Thanos thought he could fix everything. He was trying to play God. But the thing is that that's not his job. I mean, he has a function and he's there for a reason because he's part of God, right? There's nothing outside of God. So I can't say, oh, well, he's not God. Well, yes, he is. We all are. Everything that's in existence is, right? Everything under the sun, everything under the universe is God. There are roles and characters that come up, okay? But let's just talk about it from this perspective. He, I think, I watched, thought, oh, this man believes that he can then, get rid of something that's been there forever. Okay, well, it's might be possible. But then there's some things that you cannot change, that are just part of the human existence, like death. We cannot change that. Now, I don't know, maybe they have, maybe they figured out a way to live forever. I don't know. Like in the human body, I mean, right? I'm not talking about the soul. Soul's eternal, God's eternal. But I'm talking about our human flesh body. And one thing we know for certain is that we die. I mean, that's sort of part of the whole thing. Everybody knows this. Well, most people know this. Maybe if there's some mental, disabilities and stuff and you're not, maybe some people don't, but we do. We know that, okay? We know that. We die. Um, and to go and try to say that nobody is gonna die ever or do this thing, we can't do that. How do you reverse that? That's like playing with nature. That's like, in my opinion, that's bastardizing. That's not esoteric, right? And for me, I dive into the esoterics, right? Spirit and Coffee is about understanding how to use esoteric wisdom to create, right? To create in your life, to create something so that you are functioning, so that you are walking in your divine birthright. Really, that's what this is about, bringing yourself back to love, remembering who you are, right? And so understanding that these people that are quote unquote the top, whether it's money, control, blah blah blah, whatever, they're trying to take over the world like Pinky in the Brain, whatever they're doing, okay, whatever their agenda is or their intention is or what they think they're doing, they're not God. They're part of God, but they're not the God. And so the thing is what are they doing? That's the question. What is your intention? That, I mean, if you just ask that simple question, okay? When you start looking at what people are doing, so when you see a video come out, okay? And let me tell you, there's tons of videos about this is what's happening, this is that, da, 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 confusing the shit out of everybody, right? So what I'd say is ask yourself, what is their intention? What do you think their intention is? That's it. It's very simple. If you can find out what their intention is and how do you do that, start to do research. Know who they are, find out who their parents were. I mean, I'll do a lot of research. I'll do digging. Were they part of the Masonic lodges? Who was paid off by them? What money did they get? How did they get their money? What's their intention? What is their next thing? Why are they so sort of like that, right? Okay, remember in a part of the Bible says there is no new, yeah, there's nothing new under the sun. That's right. And there's not. We just shape and mold it differently. And so, but they're part of God too. You can't, nothing's outside of God. Okay. Period. How can it be? Okay. That's what I always say. How can it be? Think about it. How? Okay. Um, okay. So again, remember and thinking about who these people are. Okay. I lost my train of thought because I was like, ooh, going off. Um, So as we start to move forward, or as you start to move forward, start to do a little bit of research. Do a, like, and I do it. Why? Because I want to know the intention of individuals. What is your intention? Your intention that's it, really. That says wonders. So as watching these individuals, and I'm going to keep talking about this information and these individuals and these characters that are showing up because I want you guys to start doing your research about these people or don't. It's really up to you. It's going to be helpful, basically. I'm not giving you anything that's not going to be helpful. It's going to totally help you, right? My intention is to help you. There you go. Support you. My intention is to support you to get back to love every single time. Okay. Now you know my intention. Um, so research, understand, not because you're fearful, because we have the choice to do that, and if we choose to do that, we have the ability to understand how we need to move forward. Okay, again, I know how I'm moving forward. I know what I'm going to do. I understand from my perception, from what I have read, from what I have researched, from what I'm doing to set myself up, is I'm saying, how do I, if there isn't a phase two of this, which I honestly believe there's going to be a lot of phases to this. This is not over. It's never going to end. People think it's just going to end overnight and markets are just going to open. No, that's not it. There's a bigger agenda at play. Okay. Um, that as things start to move in the direction that they're going to move in, because we're going to have a vastly different world after this is done, or after this sort of opening of markets starts to happen, it's going to look vastly different. How do I want to engage it? How do I choose to go out and engage life? So those questions you can be asking yourself. Am I accepting it? Am I being resistant to it? Am I surrendering to God's plan? Am I going against the grain and not surrender? What is it that I'm doing? Where am I going in all this? Why does it matter? You can stay in your house and freeze and let them tell you what to do, or you can say, oh, here's how I'm going to move forward. So you have choices. That's the key here. You have choices. You can choose to let them tell you what to do, or you can prepare yourself for what you're going to do. And no one can take that away from you because you already got a plan. You know it in your head, you understand. Okay. So do a little bit of research on these people. Go watch that Netflix thing on him. And I'm super intrigued by understanding what his ultimate intention is. What is this man's ultimate intention? I mean, from the video, what I gathered just on that small thing is I really feel at first felt like, okay, well, I think he wants to do the right thing. But that's not it. I don't think, after really understanding you know the mental illnesses of psychopaths and sociopaths and narcissists, and really trying to like understand what that means, and then saying, I don't I don't know that it's for him to, I don't think that he has the feelings there. I think he's a psychopath, and I don't think he feels. And then it's not, you can't make somebody feel something. That's 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 the point. You can't. So people can yell at him, scream at him, throw pies in his face, call him this, it doesn't matter. Those names aren't going to change the fact that this person does not feel. He was born that way. If he is, and I believe he is, but I'm not, again, don't listen to me. Go do your research, you figure it out. I believe he is. I will engage him as he is because that's, from my understanding, that's what I see, right? Someone who does not feel or care. And it doesn't matter how much we tell him, his brain doesn't function the same way. His way of engaging life isn't the same. You know, we could judge him all day long. That's not going to help. It's not going to do anything. We could pray. That's beautiful. I love it. I'll pray for this man. I pray that he finds empathy and compassion and love. I pray that. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to happen, but I can pray. But I can't change him. And we can't get to him and sit in front of him, and even if we did and we told him, "Look, you've killed all my family," he's not going to care. If he's a psychopath, he's not going to care. I want you guys to understand this. It does no good to sit there and judge a person who's never going to feel something. How they don't think the same way. They don't process the same way. They don't have these emotions. They don't understand empathy. They can't feel it. They don't feel it. So rather than be upset about it and call the person names, we're like, "Oh, shoot, like, really, we're like, there's a psychopath kind of running the show here. That's kind of creepy." Right, 1. But 2, what do I get to do? How do I get to engage? And I believe, my belief, you don't have to believe me, totally on you, is that we have psychopaths, sociopaths, and narcissists running this entire world right now. And they're running amok. They're just doing what they want. And they don't give two shits. Not because they think that we're awful people, or they don't think like that. That's not their way of thinking, right? It's because they don't feel. They don't feel the guilt. Kind of. Narcissists and sociopaths apparently feel some guilt, but they only feel shame, or they feel public shame, which is different. Some of them have self-esteem issues, some of whatever it is. So I want you guys to understand that they don't feel. So it doesn't matter. We can talk about it all day. They don't care. Yeah, you're right. They don't. They don't. That's the reality. These are clinical definitions. There are people who've done research on the brain of a psychopath, a sociopath, a narcissist. Their brain doesn't fire up the same way. Their parasympathetic system doesn't operate the same as ours. There's chemical imbalances. It's genetic. So it doesn't matter how much we'll sit here and talk about how they're this, how they're that. We know that that's how they are. That doesn't, but it does no good just to talk about it. So figure out what you're going to do. Understand what is going on in the world right now, because things are going to look vastly different. And I know, I understand from the perspective of God, Yahweh, love, compassion. It does win. It does. Why? Because that's where the beauty lies. That's where our soul exists. For us to be gifted the ability to love, for us to be gifted the ability to find tranquility in life, to be able to look at a flower and touch it and feel something, have an emotion. That's awesome. That's beautiful. That's something that nobody can take from us. To know thyself, to be aware of who we are. People can't take that away from us. And we can have compassion for those who may never feel that. They're never gonna, and that right there is where my heart goes, wow, this person's never gonna know that. Maybe in their next life, if you guys believe in reincarnation, maybe they'll come back, and maybe in the next life they'll be able to feel love or compassion or empathy. Some of the most beautiful things we can feel for one another. Why? Because it's an internal process that we feel this. It's something inside of us. There's this like sort of harmony and peace that surrounds the heart and the belly when we feel those things for people. Or be a bigger a-hole. Yeah, and Millennium, I'm trying to, so I'm talking about this because really, honestly and truly, these people, quote unquote people, the ones that are at the top right now, they wouldn't have got there if they didn't weren't cutthroat and didn't care. They just don't care. It's and again, it's not about it, we could sit there and it's just their psychological, their genetics are different. They're genetically different. Literally. This is like science, okay? People like science. Everybody wants to focus on the science. There's your science. Go look it up. Go do your research on psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists. Then really understand what a psychopath is. Okay. Yeah, I was saying that they were cyborgs. And they're could like compute it's like weird. It's like they're a computer program. There's no feeling in them. There's just no feeling. So if you saw them as a computer, it's almost like they're very left-brained. They have no fear. I kind of looked and I was like, oh, check mark. Like, I think this guy totally is a psychopath. Yeah. Like, had no fear as a kid, charming. When you hear him talk, he seems very charming, charismatic, always calm, you know, just cool, calm, and collected. When they talked about his mom, he just was like, didn't seem like he had any emotion. It seemed like he wanted to pretend he had emotion. But again, you know, all of these things, when you look at it, it's like, yeah, we totally have a psychopath running the show right now. Never gonna feel. But the beauty about the people or the individuals is that we do feel. So it's not to be afraid, right? It's to understand and have some compassion that there are people out there that are never going to experience love. And perhaps if we saw this as a matrix that was built or a hologram, because that's what they say, this is a holographic universe or how it was made or whatnot, and that we're all interconnected in some way. But part of the program, if you watch The Matrix, which is a really cool way to describe what maybe I'm talking about, is that there were some programs that were built in the way they were built in, and they weren't there to change, and they weren't there to um, be disconnected from the matrix. They were a function of the matrix. They were a program in the matrix. So watch the Matrix. I love that movie. Total understanding of Agent Smith, right? Agent Smith, what he was a program. He didn't have feeling, he didn't care. He just wanted to control it all. Okay. So again, remember these people don't feel. They don't feel the way we do. And they don't care who dies. They don't care. They're not caring about your health. So we have a sociopath or a psychopath in public health. That's like bad news bears, right? Because they're like, really, you're in public health and anybody's expendable. You don't really care. As long as your agenda is done, you don't care who dies. But I'm gonna pretend that I care who dies, right? Because I can mimic behavior. This is what psychopaths. I can mimic behavior. I can pretend I care. I can show you that I care. And you're gonna feel like I care when I talk because I'm able to mimic what it would be like to be a good person and to be I don't want to say a good person, but to be a loving person, to know what it's like to feel that, you know, empathy and compassion for the world. But really, I don't feel it. But okay, I'm good at mimicking it. I'm good at telling you this and feeding you this. But really, I just have an agenda. And my agenda is this. And until we get there, I don't really care what happens to everybody over here. That's not public health. That's not how public health works. Public health, I know because I work in public health. Really, public health is for the public, right? And so what we do, and I'm just going to go over this really quick, so I got to go. In public health, what we do is we work with the community to sort of understand certain public health issues, right? And so I do more of strategic planning. And then the strategic planning that I do for public health, I engage the community and ask them what they need. Where are the gaps? How do we support you? How do we give you? So that's not happening to us right now. They're enforcing things on us without asking us how they can help us. They're just saying, here, we're going to give you this. Here, we're going to give you that. Here, do that, do this, do this. They're not saying, is this right for the population? How do we engage this population? Can we get insight? They're not getting data. They don't even have all the data. You can't. It's new. They're just saying, here, do this. And a lot of what they're doing is really, it's like we're lab rats right now for them. Think about it. We are. How can we not be? It's a new virus. So they're saying, hey, lab rats, why don't you just do what I tell you? Go get the cheese at the end of the maze because I said so. And then people will run to the end of the maze to get the cheese, right? Do your homework, please. Just please. Just please. We have a psychopath in public health, you guys. Put those two together. Go look at public health, go look at how it operates, right? There's health equity, there's anti-oppression models that we use to support the public because we know that most people are in poverty or experiencing poverty. And we know, and then we're like, how do we engage this population so that we can give them exactly what they're not doing? I mean, they're looking at the gaps in the systems right now, but that's not really what they're doing. They're not using public health measures. They're basically enforcing agendas. Like, think about it. People are coming out left and right saying, come on. And if you don't wake up, that's fine. And if you want to follow what others tell you, that's fine too. There's nothing wrong. I love you either way. I just want you guys to know that. No matter what you choose, no matter how you choose to engage this whole thing, I love you. God loves you. God's with you always. God's not leaving because of all of this craziness. God's always here because we are God. So there. Okay. I'm going to dive more into this because I really want people to understand the characters that are showing up and playing the game. And then when you understand the characters, now you know how to play the game. And they don't want you to know how to play the game because when you don't know how to play the game, they can control you. Okay? Think about it. Good morning, Nicole. Think about a chess game, a game of chess. When you go against an opponent who understands chess and you don't understand it, you're not going to win. You're screwed, right? When you start to learn the rules of the game and you start to engage the game, your opponent starts to say, oh crap, now I got to be a little bit more on my toes. I've got to be a little bit more on my toes. But they might win you still because they've had more practice. But then eventually you can become a master. And when you become a master and the person comes to challenge you, sometimes they're like, oh man, hands up, got me, right? Know the game, understand the rules of the game. When you understand the rules of the game, you can play in the game. They don't want people playing in the game right now. What they want are people who they move. Again, we're like pawns. Let me just move you here, there, or the other. That's how they see it. Rather than us saying, I'm on the field and I'm moving the way I choose to move, not the way you tell me to move, because I have information and I understand how I need to move. Be strategic. Okay. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna let you guys go. Have a great day. Go watch those things. I hope you watch that one on Bill Gates. Please start to know who's pulling strings, you guys. Or don't. It's up to you. Um And if you're ever interested on what I'm up to, please reach out to me individually because that's something that's not going to be shared on here on this platform. But you can reach out to me and um, give you some insight. If you're kind of like, I don't know where to go from here and need to find your own clarity for where you want to go, I can support you with that as well. Okay, there you go. All right. So I love you. Namaste. Have a great day. Yahweh be with you. And I love you. Bye.